The U.S. Army explicitly said they didn't want any more of these tanks, but Congress forced them to buy them anyway. Why? Because if this factory stops, a town dies. This is the story of the machine that can't be turned off. It starts in a place that looks nothing like a battlefield. There are no trenches here, only parking lots. There's no screaming, only the hum of an assembly line. But if this factory shuts down, the town dies. The steel being welded here is meant for the hull of a tank the Army hasn't asked for. That raises an uncomfortable question. What happens to the American economy if the world actually becomes peaceful? This story isn't about soldiers on the front lines. It's about the machinery behind them. We're looking at the military-industrial complex, a system where the military, private defense companies, and the government work together. For decades, the United States has kept the most powerful fighting force in human history. To pull that off, it built a massive industrial machine. But machines need fuel. And in this case, the fuel is a constant state of global pressure. In the 1940s, the United States became the arsenal of democracy. The entire economy shifted to build planes, ships, and bombs to defeat fascism. Normally, soldiers would go home and factories would shut down. But this time, something different happened. The factories stayed open. By 1961, President Dwight D. Eisenhower saw a danger. He was a five-star general, so he knew war well. He warned the public on live TV that a permanent arms industry could gain unwarranted influence over the government. He feared that profit might start outweighing peace. During the Cold War, the justification was the Soviet Union. When the Berlin Wall fell, the budget dipped briefly. But then came September 11th, 2001. The war on terror began. Defense spending surged again. The industry evolved from building tanks to building surveillance systems, drones, and data centers. Today, the landscape has shifted again. We're now in an era of great power competition. The focus is on high-tech systems to counter major global rivals. The contracts are bigger, the technology is more complex, and the dependency is deeper than ever. The numbers are hard to wrap your head around. The United States spends more on defense than the next 9 or 10 countries combined, including China and Russia. In recent years, the budget has hovered around $800 billion a year. That money flows mostly to 5 giant corporations, often called the primes. They rely on government contracts for nearly all their revenue. If the government stops buying, they can't just start selling tanks to regular people. Their only customer is the U.S. government. To make sure contracts keep coming, defense companies spread their production lines strategically. A wing factory in one state, an engine plant in another, an electronics lab in a third. This is political engineering. It ensures nearly every member of Congress has voters who rely on defense jobs. There's a strong argument that this spending is necessary. Supporters say a weak America invites trouble. They argue the only way to keep trade routes open and allies safe is with overwhelming strength. From this view, the cost is high, but losing a war would cost more. Critics, however, say the system creates a perverse incentive. When you have a $1 trillion hammer, everything starts to look like a nail. They don't claim companies start wars on purpose. but they suggest these firms lobby for foreign policies that make conflict more likely. For a machinist in Alabama or an engineer in California, this isn't about geopolitics. It's about a mortgage. It's about healthcare. Defense jobs provide stable, high-paying work in places where other industries disappeared. If a contract gets canceled, their livelihood is gone. Across the ocean, the impact is physical. The weapons made by this economic engine shape daily life in conflict zones. Advanced technology creates distance. It separates the person pushing the button from the person on the ground. The violence feels sanitized for the seller, but not for the receiver. Political scientists call this the Iron Triangle. Picture a three-way link. Congress funds the military. The military awards contracts. And the corporations send campaign donations and jobs back to Congress. It works like a loop. It doesn't need a conspiracy. It just needs everyone to act in their own self-interest. The politician wants votes. The general wants the best gear. The CEO wants profit. The result is a machine that's very hard to turn off.
Here's what we know. The U.S. economy is tightly tied to defense spending. That spending supports millions of jobs. But it also requires a world that feels dangerous. The future is shifting from heavy metal to code. We're moving toward AI, cyber warfare, and autonomous drones. These tools are faster to build, but harder to control. Scenario A. The budget keeps growing as tech gets more expensive. Scenario B. Politics shift, and domestic priorities like healthcare or infrastructure finally compete for those funds. But with current global tension, a cut in spending seems unlikely anytime soon. Confidence in continued spending is high. The system doesn't survive just because of generals or lobbyists. It survives because it made itself essential to America's economic life. We built a merchant of death that pays the rent.